You're watching HCAM TV.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to HCAM Sports Talk. I'm your host, Tom Nappy, and today we should have Jared Keene coming in shortly from the Metrowest Daily News, as well as Andy Barron. But until then, Bob will accompany me. Bob, how are you?
Hi, Tom. Glad to be here. It's good to see some spring weather breaking out there. I've been watching the Red Sox, even though it was snowing out there in that Minnesota.
Minneapolis.
That was a good game yesterday. Jared's on his way in.
All right. Yeah, it certainly was. The Red Sox have been red hot lately. They are in first place in the AL East. I can't even remember the last time they were in first place. It's nice to see them on a bit of a winning streak, Bob, after starting off 0-3.
Yeah, I don't know. I was upset when I saw them. Well, as you know, my two daughters live down in Maryland, and they somehow have turned into O's fans down there. And when we got swept by the O's, that was not very pleasant.
They must have felt like, wow, the O's might have a chance this year. And then they lost like five in a row.
That was fleeting. Yeah.
Right now, the Sox looking for their 8th straight win. They are on top of the Twins in the bottom of the second, 3-0. So feel free to put the game on mute in the background of the show, of course.
Yeah.
And we do have Jared here. Jared, how are you?
I'm good, Tom. How you guys doing?
Good. Can't complain. Beautiful day out there.
It is. It's very nice out today. Very nice.
Folks, I recommend get outside today. It's the last nice day we're going to have for quite a while. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday look pretty rainy. So
not ideal.
I'm excited.
I plan on getting outside after this. So.
Oh, absolutely. I am excited for high school football this Friday, but I'm not excited about the weather. It is
very much the same. Very, very much agree. Hard agree.
Yeah. Rainy, windy, cold night. I heard there's even a very slight chance of some snow drops. So
yeah, I don't know. I think that's going to stay more towards the west, but again, you never know. I think I think it'll probably just be some rain, maybe, but we'll see.
I'll keep my fingers crossed. I don't want any more snow.
What do you got this Friday? Where are you going to be at?
We'll be at Hopkinton for their last game of the season against Norwood.
Okay. Excellent.
Bob, what were you going to say?
I was going to say it's going to be reminiscent of real football season weather when it gets cold and rainy.
Right.
And I know you love being out there when it's winds blowing onto that field and the snow's coming up and the rain. It just can't be beat. That's football.
I'll never forget that one playoff game I had to do. It was at Hopkinton, actually. And I think it was negative temperatures out. It was like 2 degrees with a -10 wind chill. It was brutal. I mean, I was bundled up. I had like 4 layers on, Under Armour, jacket, gloves, the whole deal, hat. But I was freezing after. Standing out there for 3 hours in that type of weather, no thanks. So I guess Friday won't be as bad as that. So
no, definitely not. Definitely not.
There's the good thing. But speaking of that, let's show you the games coming up. There is some changes. On Monday, we did have Hillers swimming senior night against Boston Latin. You can watch that game or that meet, I should say, over on our YouTube page right now. Some changes for Thursday. We have Hillers girls volleyball versus Holliston. Unfortunately, the JV1 and varsity games have been canceled, so those will not happen. But we will have the JV2 game at 3:30 p.m., and then we'll have the final Hillers swim meet of the season against Ashland at 7 p.m. And then on Friday, April 16th at 6 p.m., we'll have the kickoff to the Hillers varsity football final game against Norwood. So there it is. Final week of the Fall 2 season. It looks like we're going to make it through.
Yeah.
And then a couple weeks after that, we'll have spring season. I think May 5th is our first broadcast.
Yeah. I'm excited for this weekend's slate of games, too. We got some good games this weekend. A lot to look forward to.
Yes, they saved a lot of the good rivalries for this week, and really, it's been good rivalries all season long with the league matchups. And we got Andy Barron joining us. Andy, how are you?
How's it going, Tom? Hey, Jared. Bob. Good
What's
to see
up,
you.
Andy? How you
Andy.
doing?
I haven't seen you in a while.
I've been around, but I've been in the background, keeping an eye on everybody. I want to make sure it doesn't go awry.
Well-
He wants to make sure there's not too many shenanigans, and I don't blame him.
That's good. That's why we got Bob. That's why we keep Bob around, right?
Bob keeps us in line,
Absolutely.
definitely.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, that's why they keep me in the background off camera.
He's the executive producer. So
Yeah, executive producer.
he has to keep us all in line. So we have a number of topics we're going to touch on today. We'll touch on the Red Sox 7-game winning streak. We'll touch on the Bruins, who recently made a couple of moves. And Julian Edelman retired. He will certainly be missed. So we'll touch on that as well. And, of course, we have the final week of Fall 2 sports coming up. And we'll have the spring season practices starting shortly. And hopefully during the spring season, we'll have many days of weather like it is out there today. But no guarantees, unfortunately. But we'll start off with the Red Sox. They start off 0-3. They've now won 7 straight, looking for their 8th straight today. Currently up 3-0 at the end of the second inning. This team's starting to look pretty exciting, guys. And it seems like we might have a competitive team back in Boston. What are your thoughts?
Go for
Andy. Go ahead, Andy.
Like I said last week, I'm still skeptical. It's still way too early in the season. Now they have played a lot better. There's no question about it. They're playing really, really well right now. They're hitting the ball very well. They're getting good pitching, but it's still got a long way to go. I am still not convinced. 162 games is a long way to go. And let's keep in mind, gentlemen, when things start going south for this team, it gets ugly around here. Like,
Yep.
I'm just saying, like, I can't get out of my head they got swept by the Orioles to start the season. I still can't get. I mean, they were horrendous in that season. It's like they didn't even care. You know,
They were awful.
and they played better. And I'm not taking anything away from them. They're playing well. I don't know how good the Twins really are, but if they start doing this to the Yankees, they start doing this to I mean, who is that team right now? I mean, we still don't
Yep.
know. A lot of teams don't have the identity yet. But yeah, they're playing great. I'll give them credit where credit's due. I mean, it's really been Devers and JD Martinez. They seem to be
Yep.
the guys that have really. And I always say when JD Martinez hits well, the team seems to follow suit.
Good things happen.
Well, you can't forget about Bob's guy, Bobby Dahlbeck.
Bobby Dahlbeck. First
He had a nice
base.
game last night, definitely.
Did.
Playing well.
Yeah,
He
but I
did.
was also impressed by Arroyo at second base. I don't know why.
Yep.
He made some great plays on second there.
And the team
And-
finally found to have found a nice closer in Matt Barnes, who's been pitching well out of the bullpen, obviously, shutting down things down in the 9th inning.
That is one thing I have noticed right off the bat. The pitching does finally look stronger, especially the bullpen,
Yep.
which is something that they desperately needed. They did make a couple moves in the offseason, thankfully, and got a little bit stronger in the pen. Nathan Eovaldi's looked great. He looks like he might be the ace of the team right now.
Yep.
Is that enough to get you to the promised land? I don't know. But
I'm not convinced, but we'll see.
yeah, I mean, I'm not sold on this team yet. There's still a
No.
long way to go, but it is nice to see them after that 0-3 start, start to win some games and put
Yep.
together a nice winning streak, because they were on the verge, I think, of fans losing interest really fast, especially after the season that they had last year. And if they were like 3-6 right now, or whatever it may be, I don't know if people would be watching at all. But
Right.
seeing that they're
Right.
on a 7-game winning streak and they're actually having fun out there, which is good, I think that is certainly helping their case to keep fan interest.
You know, Tom, we talked about this last week when Kevin was on, and I thought we had a great conversation. But let me ask you gentlemen this. Do you get excited about this team? Because honestly, I watched a little bit the other night. I cannot commit to watching a 3 to 4 hour baseball game. I can't do it.
I feel the exact same way. I feel the exact same way.
Great, Jared, and I'm glad because we were talking about this last week. Baseball's got an identity problem right now, okay? And if they do strike next year, that is going to destroy this game. I'm telling you right now.
Yep.
They couldn't even agree to play a 60-game season. How in the world are they going to commit to 100 to get a new CBA done? Really? I mean, it is a disaster right now. They have an identity problem. They've got to make changes because the casual fan is not interested in this game. And this is another point I made last week, okay? I also made that when we watched baseball in the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s, you knew these players, household names, household teams. The rivalries were so intense, but I don't get excited over this team. Yes, they have talent, but I just can't commit to sit down and watch a game in April for 4 hours. I mean, it's too much. It's too much.
I have to agree with you. It is too much. And it's too many games, especially if they're this long. I remember in the late 90s, early 2000s, used to have a lot of shorter games.
Oh, yeah.
Used to have a good amount of the 2.5.
Pitching. Good pitching.
Games. Right? The
Braves.
pitching was much better.
When you watched the Braves game, they were done in like not even 2.5 hours because the was so dominant, maybe the best I've ever seen.
Well, again, the rotation was insane when they had Maddox and Smoltz and Glavin, and I mean those guys were lights out. You know, you'd have like 2-hour games.
It was unreal. I mean, and same thing when the Yankees had their dominant teams. These games weren't taking a while. And here's the other thing: the players promoted the game, and the league let them do it.
Yeah,
right.
Now they won't let them do it.
They promoted the game by smashing homers and chasing records, and
yes, they did. Sure, but they were doing commercials, other things. They promoted the game, and they were
right.
You know what I mean. It just I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but you have to be concerned if you are a baseball fan. Which look, I still watch some games, but it just doesn't have the same oomph that it used to have too. Now, maybe that's because of the internet and the media. I don't know. But remember when Baseball Tonight was on, that's where you got your information.
Yep.
Right.
That show to come on and they would cut in live games. You would go to the plate. Like when the home run chase was going on, you stopped what you were doing to watch.
It was like a red zone of baseball almost.
Yeah, it was.
It was awesome. After the Red Sox game, you'd tune into the Baseball Tonight, follow all the other action going on. But part of it was, and as we mentioned last week, there were so many interesting players around the league, and you knew players from other teams.
Oh, yeah.
You knew guys like A-Rod and Ken Griffey Jr. and Rafael Palmeiro, Barry Bonds, Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire.
Yep.
Now, really, I think baseball has become a sport where pretty much people just follow their own team, and that's about it.
Thank
you
goodness.
Don't care about what's going on elsewhere anymore because they don't have those intriguing players like they used to.
Thank goodness for YouTube because I got a chance to watch a little bit of that 99 All-Star game last week, and someone made a comment that made 200%. It was right on. I can name you every single player that played on both of those teams. I couldn't even name you one All-Star today. It's so true.
Right.
Yeah.
That was the golden era of baseball.
I mean, you can probably name a small handful today, but you can't name probably a whole team on either side. No way.
And for me, a lot of the changes in the rules are confusing to me. That what's going on, and when they take 5 minutes for a replay, and what is that? I just don't get it. Like today, they're playing 7 innings for the first of a 2-game doubleheader, and then another 7 innings. So even though the Sox are up, well, they were up 3-0 in the second inning, 5 more innings and it's over, and then you move on to the next game. And some of the rules that put a runner on second base to start the extra inning games, what is that?
Yeah.
You see, I don't mind that though, because it's like we're talking about how the game's too long and they have a doubleheader today. Who's going to sit there and watch 6-7 hours of Red Sox baseball? Not many people.
No.
And there's probably not many people watching right now because a lot of people are at work, but it's better to have 2 7-inning games, I think, rather than 2 9-inning games. That's cutting off probably a good hour and a half of baseball. So you could catch both games, or at least you have more of a chance to catch both games. So I think that was one of the efforts to kind of shorten the season a little bit, or shorten those situations. So you don't have to be glued to the TV for 6-7 hours to watch 2 games, even though most of the time 7 innings takes 3.5 hours. But you don't have to be glued to the TV as long, I guess, to catch both games of a doubleheader. So I think that was one of their efforts to shorten the game. I don't necessarily disagree with that. I think it's pretty reasonable, especially in a 162 game season. I like some of the rules that they've done, like keeping that rule with the runner at second base after the 10th inning, because I don't think we have any use for 16, 18 inning games, especially if it's a weeknight game, which the majority of them are. So I think they are trying to implement rules to speed up the game, but they're not doing enough. I think we need that pitch clock. I think they need to enforce the pitch clock. I think we need to get rid of the replays. I think each team should have 1 replay a game, and that's it. If that. I hate the replays. I like the human error in baseball. If you're a baseball purist like me, I mean, part of the game is human error. So I'm not even a big fan of the replays. Maybe in the playoffs and in the World Series you could have them, but during the regular season, I have no use for replays. But they're just not doing enough to speed up the game. But some of these rules, I think, are making an effort, I guess, to do that.
But I agree with Bob that some of the rules are a problem, because that Philadelphia-Atlanta game on Sunday night was an absolute disgrace.
It was.
I saw
it was awful.
But the fans had no right throwing stuff on the field. That takes it way too far. I mean, but they had every right to be upset because they have a problem. The replay system in baseball is horrible. It's
horrible.
It's terrible. It's like it doesn't work. I don't know.
I don't get why they don't do it like the NHL and have a guy who is watching all the games in the offices, the Major League Baseball offices, and then just tells the umps what call to make.
Yeah.
I mean, do it like the NHL. Make it quick.
Yep.
You can't have the umps looking at a replay for 20 minutes, half hour.
Well, that's why I agree with you, Tom, that I'm willing to put up with the errors, even though I look at a play and the ump makes a lousy call and I yell and scream at the TV, but it's over. Move on. Instead of this,
that call in the Philadelphia game, though, was atrocious. That was one of the worst things I've ever seen.
I missed that one. I don't even know what happened in that one.
Those are the 2 worst calls I've ever seen in my life. I mean,
awful.
I just like, you can't make.
Tom, you got to look it up. Tom, you got to check it out. It's awful.
I'll have to go back and look that up.
And to your point, Andy, they're lucky they didn't have a full stadium. They only had limited fans. Otherwise, the place would have erupted.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Bob, that's such a great point. A lot of these stadiums, there's only a couple, I think, that didn't have full fans. But, man, the fans in Atlanta, I'm telling you, they can get real nasty down there.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Atlanta, and it's seriously, though, you go to some of the, like, college football is a big thing in Atlanta, but they had every right to be upset, but you can't throw stuff in the field. That just can't happen. I mean,
no. I mean, that those fans are frustrated after what has happened to their football team in the last few years, and pretty much not having any other remotely competitive team. But still, yeah, no excuse.
Well, it might be a carryover too from the removal of the All-Star game from the city. So
right, that's true.
Very true.
In the first place.
And you know what? Speaking of that, as I said last week, I don't care what side of the fence you're on. There's no reason to move any All-Star games or anything like that because of politics. Politics has nothing to do with baseball. Leave the politics out of it. If you schedule the All-Star game in Atlanta, play it in Atlanta. It's absolutely ridiculous that they moved it out of Atlanta. And again, I don't care what side of the fence you're on. Keep politics out of sports. That just ruins it even more, because no matter what you do, if you're going to involve politics in sports, I mean, you have fans on both sides of the fence. So you're going to tick one of them off. You're going to lose sales, and it's really just going to hurt your sport.
It's so true. Look what happened.
If I was an Atlanta fan, yeah, I would certainly be mad. They've been waiting for years for an All-Star game. I think the last one was what, 98?
It's been a long time. Yeah. Been a long time, and this is a problem in all of sports. I mean, look at the Sox Twins game getting postponed on Monday, and not to get political, but gentlemen, is this what's going to happen every time now? And I said this to a friend of mine the other day. So every time we have a problem in our country, are we just not going to play a game? I mean, is that what we're heading now? Because it certainly.
I think it wasn't the players' protest. I think it was a safety issue or
Well,
something.
yeah, clearly, but I don't know. It just,
I mean, if it's a safety issue, like, they moved the whole series to afternoon games because of the lack of safety right now at night in Minneapolis.
the curfew.
That I don't blame them
Yeah.
for. At least they're playing the game. But no, I mean, I'm not a big fan of players not playing a game because of a political issue. I think they're paid to play. They should play, and that's it. But at least in the case of Monday, it wasn't about that. It had more to do, I guess, with safety since there was protests going on.
Well, there's a curfew too, so that's why they had afternoon games.
Yep.
I don't know if it's been lifted, but again, Tom, you make a great point. I mean, everyone's got their side and this side. You're gonna. I guess someone's gonna get offended regardless. I mean, it's just, but the All-Star game is just a whole lot different thing. But it just kind of, I don't know. There's a lot of people that are really ticked off about stuff like this and that are losing
Yep.
it. The outrage on social media is just, it is unbelievable. I mean, people are like, that's it. I'm not supporting. I'm not buying any more tickets, merchandise. I mean, professional sports as a whole has got to be very, very careful right now.
Social media is a whole different animal too. I mean, with the impact that social media has on everybody in daily lives is, I mean,
Too much.
Yeah. it says it all,
It's too much. But well, I mean, that's the way it works, though. If a sport or a team is going to do something based on politics, especially when it has nothing whatsoever to do with that sport or team, you're going to get backlash like this. It's not going to go well for you. I mean, football, the NFL, they lost a lot of ratings over the whole kneeling thing.
Yes.
A lot of people tuned out.
They
And
did.
it doesn't matter if you feel that they're right to kneel or if they're not. Whatever you do, you're taking somebody off. And I think, especially with the case of baseball, that is the absolute last thing they should be doing. They're already having trouble getting viewership and getting fans. Why are you going to take a side of the fence on some political issue that has nothing to do with your sport and get even less people that want to watch your sport? It makes no sense.
You made a great point last week too, just saying how it may not even be their decision. There's people, there's always someone that's a higher up. Someone else is saying, hey, you're moving that all-star game. It may not have even been Rob Manfred. I think the pressure is immense from other sides of the spectrum, and maybe they don't have any control over it. I don't know. But who really knows, really?
Manfred's the commissioner. He makes the ultimate decision. Yeah, I'm sure there was pressure, but you don't have to buy into that pressure. If someone's pressuring you, say, look, this has nothing to do with my sport. We schedule it to play here. It's going to play here. That's it. I mean, I know I'm saying it like it's easy to do, but, that's what you got to do, because especially in a hurting sport like baseball, where they're just struggling to get viewers and interest, when they do stuff like this, it just affects them negatively and makes more people tune out and not want to watch. I mean, I bet you the All-Star game rating is going to be significantly down from what they would have been. Not that they've been great in past years anyway, and recently, but I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that protest that game. There's probably a lot.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Right.
Well, especially now they moved it to Colorado. Listen,
Yeah.
there's another city in Denver. I mean, they have been having some major issues out there. I mean, again, it's just, could you be looking at another safety issue? I mean, you just don't know. I mean, but I don't think any other city wanted it. I think they were like, no, if you're going to pull it out of Atlanta, what's going to happen if you did bring it to Boston or New York or Chicago, and then you're going to be upset about something that happens there, and then we're going to have this whole thing happen all over again.
Yep.
Probably
It's
too many lockdown rules around here.
Bob, you should be the commissioner.
Yeah,
I should.
You should, Bob.
because nobody likes me, so I'll just make the decision and that's it. So,
Bob,
Everybody likes you.
Bob would definitely be on my staff.
yeah.
No.
Yeah, you would.
But I do want to get to Julian Edelman. A little unexpected that he retired, and well, obviously it all started when he failed the physical. And I believe it was a knee issue that he never had resolved. And from what I understand, he was recommended to do one thing with the knee, but didn't do it and failed the physical, and then just decided to retire. he's been beaten up the last few years. I guess I can't blame him for retiring. Who knows? Maybe he takes a year off, comes back in a Bucks uniform to play with Brady one more time. It wouldn't surprise me. That's exactly what Gronk did. Why wouldn't Edelman do it, right? And Gronk, I think, has been more beat up in his career than Edelman, so I don't rule it out. But at least for now, he's retired, and I don't think he's going to play this year. He's probably going to heal and get whatever surgeries he needs to get. But he was an unbelievable contributor to this team, and some fun facts about him. He was one of the only 2 players in NFL history with at least 100 receptions and 1,000 or more receiving yards in postseason history. Can anyone name the other guy?
Well, what was that stat again?
Julian Edelman was one of 2 players with at least 100 receptions and 1,000 or more receiving yards in postseason history. There's one other player who's done this. Can you guys
Jerry
name
Rice?
it? You got it.
Well, I was going to say Wes Welker.
No.
But
Jerry
He was
Rice.
probably close.
Probably Jerry Rice.
But yeah, it was Jerry Rice. So Julian Edelman, Jerry Rice in a category of their own in the playoffs. And
It's pretty good company right there.
it certainly is.
But I'd like to point out that most of those yards that Edelman got were after the catch over the middle and getting banged around by 2 linebackers before he got away and kept going.
Hey,
Rice was gone. He was down the field and out of everybody's way by the time he caught it.
doesn't it matter how you get the yards? And you get the
No, it
first
doesn't
downs,
matter.
Bob. Come on.
It doesn't matter, except
That was Edelman's
I
game.
root for the
That's what
little
he did.
guy.
Edelman was no outside receiver. We
No.
know he was that interior guy who would get
Yep.
those.
He
nickel
wasn't
and
even a
dime
receiver.
pickups.
He came into the NFL as a quarterback
quarterback.
out of Kent
Right.
State.
That's right. And he had a few legendary passes throughout his career
Yep.
as well. I'll never forget the one against Baltimore. That was one of
Yep.
the most amazing plays I've ever
Iconic.
seen.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then he had a couple with Cam Newton last year as well that were pretty amazing. And in Julian Edelman's career, the most yards he had in a single game receiving was 176. So that's the most he had individually receiving in a regular season game, 176. Can you guys name the quarterback who was the starter for that game for the Patriots?
Jimmy Garoppolo.
Let's see what Jared guesses. Do you have a guess, Jared? He's looking it up on Google.
No.
He has
I
his
don't have
computer
a
right
guess.
there.
I don't know.
Cam
'Cause I'll
Newton.
say,
Cam
Ah.
Newton.
Cam
Wow.
Newton.
Wow.
I never would have got that. No,
I
never
know.
would.
I
Wow.
saw that today, and I was like, "Wow, this is mind blowing." You'd
I was
think
trying to think
all
of
those
like
games- Yeah, I mean, even Jimmy Garoppolo was a decent guess because he played, 3 or 4 games with them.
Yep.
But you would think all these games he played with Brady, all these seasons, all these tremendous games that he had, you would think it would be him. But then he plays one season with Cam Newton, and he actually, I think, only played, 3-4 games last year, really,
I think
Yeah.
6 games.
until he got hurt.
He did have some
And
good games with
it was
him,
Newton.
I will admit. He actually,
But when you think about it, it makes sense. You know why? Because the Patriots had no receivers except
Nobody else.
Edelman last year.
Yeah.
Or Cam Newton couldn't find any receivers except Edelman.
Yep.
he had a great career here. Phenomenal
did.
career. Unbelievable in the Super Bowls. That's
Yeah.
what I'm going to remember.
Unbelievable in the playoffs in
He
general.
was a
yeah.
clutch player.
But
Well,
the Seattle and Atlanta Super Bowls, he was out of this world in those games.
The catch against Atlanta.
Oh yeah.
The catch.
Well, that
against
that was one of the greatest plays in football history.
Don't know how
absolutely.
I still have no idea how he caught that ball.
I don't either. I've watched that.
I don't either.
But that's what
replay.
separates him from a guy like Wes Welker. He made the big plays in the big spots. That's what separates players from me, anyways, when I divide it. But those 2 Super Bowls, they don't win without Julian Edelman. There's
No.
No,
no doubt about it. I mean,
especially that Atlanta one.
Oh,
Not
yes.
even close.
No,
I mean, without
especially
that
that,
catch, you don't win that game.
you probably lose.
You needed every single play after you were down 28-3, and he made a catch that was just unreal.
And he was
Unreal.
Amazing play. Again,
So-
a play that'll always be remembered. You know, as long
Oh,
as you're a Patriots
absolutely.
fan.
he was that guy too that when you needed the play, he was going to make it. Third down
Yeah.
play, you're going to Julian Edelman. It's not. He wasn't a guy that was like Bob said. He's not a guy like Jerry Rice that was probably the greatest receiver ever. Him or Randy Moss. I mean, he was a guy that he just made the plays when you need him. The guy was tough as nails. I mean, it helped that he had Tom Brady, obviously, but still, I mean, there was so many things that he could do for this.
Yeah.
But you know, it just that's a tough position to play too. When you're a slot receiver in the league, you
Yep.
take a beating. I mean, it just. I'm surprised he did it for as long as he did. To be honest with you,
Yeah.
Right.
he's a Patriot Hall of Famer. I don't think there's any doubt about it.
Now,
No doubt about
here's
it.
the debate. Is he an NFL Hall of Famer?
Well, are you going to go by numbers or are you going to go by sports writers?
Depends what you go by.
Yeah, I mean,
By the numbers.
his numbers weren't bad. I can tell you that right now.
I don't
And
think he's first ballot, but he could maybe sneak in.
He could get in there for sure.
Maybe.
I think he should. I think part of getting the Hall of Fame has a lot to do with your playoff numbers too.
Oh,
They had
And
big playoff numbers.
yeah.
you know, his regular season numbers, I mean, after 2012 were pretty unbelievable. There was one season he got hurt in preseason. That was 2017, but
he missed the season with the ACL injury, yeah, and then he came
Yeah.
back, and he took him another year or two, but he got better. He's close. Like he's not going to get in on the first try, but
see, I think what sets him over the edge is his playoff numbers and the legendary catches that he made in the playoffs and how clutch he was. I think that
Yeah.
sets him over the edge. His career stats, I don't think gets him in alone, but when you factor in those playoff numbers, I think it gets him in. It just sneaks him in. And maybe not even first ballot, which I'd be okay with.
I would love to see it.
But who knows? Is he done for real? Could we see him in a Bucs uniform? I mean, I think sitting in the back of all of our minds when Brady and Gronk went over to Tampa was Edelman's probably going to follow.
I don't.
And
I don't
Gronk,
think
hey,
so.
he retired for a year, and we thought maybe he'll come back the next year late in the season. He didn't. He kept teasing at it, toying around with the Pats fans, which I didn't like. But we all thought maybe he'll come back. He didn't, and then he goes to Tampa. So I don't think Edelman, if he is going to come back, would toy around as much about it. But I think it's possible. I really do. And I think Brady would love to have him back for a year.
I mean, anything is possible at this point, but I don't know. I
Right.
doubt it.
Yeah, I don't think his leg is going to hold up. I don't
I don't
think,
think
he
it'll hold.
could,
No.
at this point of his career. I don't think he can come back from that
No.
injury as like Gronk did. I mean, he didn't do anything when he was out retired. He was able to rehab and get his back in shape, and his arm was fine. So I don't think it can compare the injury that Edelman had to what Gronk had when he went out. But one thing I'll say about Edelman, I was surprised. I didn't really realize that he had played for 12 years. That's quite a career in the NFL to spend 12 years.
Again, especially as a
Yeah.
slot receiver where you're getting
Oh,
beat
yeah.
up all, over the middle all the time.
at
definitely.
his size too.
yeah,
Yep.
no doubt.
Tough
about
as
it.
nails. Tough as
Great.
nails.
Great player. I mean, I see where Tom's coming from. I mean, I guess nothing surprises me anymore, but I can't see that knee holding up. I think
Yeah.
I think he's done. I mean,
I agree.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if I was a betting man, I guess I would bet he's done. But it wouldn't surprise me if he
Yeah.
came back for Tampa for a year. It just
Yeah.
wouldn't.
So you'd like to see him come back and like to see him play. So would I.
would.
Yeah.
I wanted to see him play this year. I actually thought the few games that he played with Newton, they actually had good chemistry.
And
And I think that was a big reason that Newton had so much success in the first few games was in large part because of Edelman. I believe it was the Seattle game that he had that tremendous game where he had 179 yards. But he was great with Newton. And yeah, it was a Seattle game. 179 yards, 8 receptions, no touchdowns that game, surprisingly. But he set the tone in that game. And they almost beat a really good Seattle team with a brand new quarterback. They should have beat them. They were one play away.
how many career touchdowns did he have? Do you have his numbers up there? Or his career touchdown numbers.
I will get you that in a minute. Let's see. Career touchdowns. All right, what do you think it is?
I don't know. I have no idea. I don't even know what to guess.
36.
Wow.
36?
Yep.
I thought it would be higher than that, but
I thought it would definitely be higher.
Yeah, I did too, actually. I wonder how
Wow.
many were in the playoffs, though. These are just regular season stats. I wonder if these are just regular. No, I think they're the.
but
whole
maybe
thing.
as a frustrated Patriots fan, I can espouse the fact that it's tough for these guys to get into the Hall of Fame because there's a lot of people that don't feel comfortable on putting the Patriots into the Hall of Fame because everybody knows that Tom Brady was a cheater. So we're not gonna.
Love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Blah, 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 blah.
He didn't cheat last year, Bob.
Yeah, no.
There's a Tampa Bay who hasn't even made the
Oh.
playoffs since
Yeah.
what, 2002 or whatever it was.
He's
And
reformed.
yeah. But 36 career touchdowns. But you know what? I wonder how many drives he set up touchdowns on. Because, thinking back, Edelman was never really a big touchdown guy.
No.
He was the guy that set up the drive that got a touchdown. He'd have
Right.
all those little nickel and dime plays up the field.
But I still would have thought he had more than 36 for his career. If I was going to guess, when you kind of asked me if I wanted to get a guess there, I was going to give something maybe in the 50s or 60s, but I didn't really know, But 36, that's so low.
All right.
That seems so low.
For a little comparison here, let's pull up the Jerry Rice stats.
He was good on special teams too.
He was.
Yeah.
Very good on special teams.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
He actually is. That is what kind of helped him steal Welker's job.
Yeah.
Right.
Was how good he was on special teams. He first stole that from Welker, and then he stole pretty much the receiving position from Welker when they didn't want to pay him because they were sick of his drops, his horrible drops, in the playoffs. And that was the big difference between Edelman and Welker.
There you go.
Yep.
Welker had such embarrassing drops in the playoffs, but then you have Edelman, who looked a lot like Welker, played a lot like Welker, but he didn't make those drops in the playoffs. He made
held onto the ball.
humongous catches.
Comes down to. That's what it comes down
Oh,
to.
wow. This is a comparison. So Jerry Rice played for 21 years. He had 197 touchdowns.
Unreal.
So Edelman's not even close in that category.
197 touchdowns. That is
197 touchdowns?
197.
that is unreal.
That's ridiculous.
But, Steve Young didn't know how to spread the ball out that much. And then yards.
To a Division II college.
Yeah.
Just unreal what this guy did. I
Yep.
mean, really.
Yeah. I mean, if you're, Jerry Rice is probably the greatest receiver of all time, or at least one of them. He's in that category. Edelman's not one of the greatest of all time, but he's one of the most clutch of all time, perhaps.
Yep.
Looking at what he's done in the playoffs. But, I guess, I don't know. I'd have to do a little more research about the receivers in the Hall of Fame. Do any of them have similar numbers to Edelman? I think there are a few in there that do. But, I mean, I could go. He's definitely going to get into the Patriots Hall of Fame, but
Oh, yeah.
I think there's certainly a possibility he gets into the NFL Hall of Fame too, just with how clutch he was. But certainly a long distance stats wise from what Jerry Rice did, that's for sure. But it was a tremendous career, a lot of fun to watch him, and I'm bummed he's not going to be back this year, and that leaves you another spot to fill. Who's going to take over that slot role that Edelman can't fill? I mean, you got Kendrick Bourne, could be him. It could be Aguilar. He's a guy that has been used in the slot quite a bit. None of them, I don't think, are as good as Edelman in his prime, but obviously Edelman's beat up right now anyway, so he probably wouldn't help you out too much. But I do think you have a couple of options for the slot role, but it would have been nice to have Edelman with that group.
Watch them trade up and take Devontae Smith. That'd be crazy. I mean, they're obviously not going to, but that would be pretty crazy.
They're probably going to draft somebody, that's for sure. High.
Yep.
because you need another receiver now. I mean,
Yep.
you got Kendrick Bourne, Aguilar coming in, and you have a couple guys from last year, but you don't really have faith in any of them. So
Yep.
you need some more competition at the receiving position now. And I think they will certainly be trying to do that. But I do want to throw in a little bit of Bruins. They made a big trade. They acquired forwards Taylor Hall and Curtis Lazar in a trade with the Buffalo Sabres. They sent forward Andres Bjork and a second-round pick in this year's draft to Buffalo. And I think it was a good trade. Taylor Hall has 2 goals, 17 assists in 37 games. Lazar, 26. He's 26, has 5 goals and 4 assists in 33 games. I think you get 2 pretty good pieces there. And if you want to make a playoff run, I think you needed to add, and that's what they did at this year's NHL trade deadline. I think it was a good acquisition. Do they need more? Maybe a little bit more, but I think at least they did something. It was nice to see them actually make a move and acquire some additional talent. They're right in the mix. They're 4th place in the East. And I think Lazar has very good potential to be a huge contributor on this team. What do you guys think about this trade?
I agree. I think Hall, obviously is going to come in. He's somebody to, get pretty excited about. I was just happy that they did something, though. Obviously for such a long time, this team has not really pulled the trigger on moves like this. But to see them obviously finally making a move like this, I think is, positive. And I think, again, both guys can come in and contribute right away. I was pleased with it. Definitely.
Absolutely. Andy, any thoughts on this Bruins trade? I think adding a couple extra pieces is certainly something they need to do if they want any chance at getting to the promised land this year.
Yeah, well, especially after the way they lost to the Capitals the other night. I mean, that was an embarrassment.
That was an atrocity.
I've seen that team have in a very long time. That was horrible. They do not match up well with the Capitals. Just hope they don't play them in the postseason.
Yeah.
That's not a good matchup. I remember when Taylor Hall he was the number 1 pick, I believe, in what year was that? What year was he the number 1 pick?
I forget what year it was.
It was him, and then the Bruins drafted Tyler Seguin. I remember it was
2010.
Yeah,
something like that. I think it was like 2010.
But just remember the hype coming out with Taylor Hall and Seguin. It was
and we really didn't know who they were going to end up with.
Right, and Taylor Hall has had, I believe, if I heard the stat right, he's had like 11 different coaches. This guy's had a lot of problems. I mean, he's been from team to team. I know he's had
2010.
Yeah, he's had some issues. The talent's there. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, but it'll be interesting to see how he fits in here. I mean, he might need another year to really get going. You know what I mean?
He had some injury issues, didn't he?
He did. He's had some other.
He's had. He's gone through all sorts of stuff.
He's had a lot of issues. I mean, you probably could say he maybe has not lived up to his potential. So I think.
So again, it's also hard when you've had 11 different coaches or 12 different coaches or whatever. That's outrageous.
That is bad. That was a red flag to me. It's like, well, why has he had that many? I mean, because I remember when we got Tyler Seguin, in my opinion, he's played better than Taylor Hall. Like, I mean, I'm still upset they got rid of him, to be honest with you.
Well, he at least hasn't been to a ton of different teams. He was drafted in 2010 by Edmonton. He was at Edmonton for 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then he went to New Jersey. He was there for 5 years. And then he was in Arizona for 2. And then he was in Buffalo for, obviously, the first half of this season. And he had a pair of goals, 17 assists, was a pretty good contributor, plus minus a -21. That's pretty good.
Yep.
So he's having a decent year. And now he's on the Bruins, a team I think he's always wanted to be on, because he's mentioned it, I believe, that he always wanted to be on the Boston Bruins. So I think it's a nice piece. Obviously, as long as he doesn't create any type of controversy, but he's had some injury issues and some other issues in the past, but I don't think it's anything extreme, at least as far as what I know.
Just remember when he was drafted by Edmonton, like this guy was supposed to like save the franchise because the Oilers really had not done
At the time, yeah.
I remember what a powerhouse they were in the 80s. They were unbelievable. Same and then when they beat the Bruins in the early 90s, they were a juggernaut. This guy was supposed to be the next guy. He was going to take the torch from Wayne Gretzky. Never happened. It just never. Those are shoes that are skates that are almost impossible to fill. You're talking about one of the greatest hockey players ever.
I mean, that's like Sagan. I mean, Sagan was really good, but he wasn't like Wayne Gretzky or anything like that. And obviously, the first two picks of that 2010 draft was between those two. So I think the expectations are probably a little bit too high for him at first.
Well, now the Oilers have Connor McDavid, and yeah. I mean, that guy is ridiculous. He's so good. Him and Draisaitl together are so good. Outrageous how good they are.
They love their hockey in Edmonton, I can tell you that. It's a whole other life up there. I mean, with hockey. I mean, it's just
it's too bad they just can't get anywhere.
They've come. Tom, a little let's do some TVL football real quick. Just
yes, what do you got?
Well, obviously a big slate of games this weekend. In the large, you got Holliston, Norwood, and Ashland all tied for first at 3-1. You got Holliston playing a winless Westwood team this weekend or on Friday. You got Ashland, I think, playing a 1-win Medfield team, and then you got Norwood playing Hopkinton. That could be a sneaky game. But
yes,
obviously,
that's going to be a good one.
Grabs there. Could
Norwood's really good.
What?
Norwood's a powerhouse.
Yeah, I mean they beat Holliston, but they lost to Ashland last week.
Right, that's true.
But you could have an outright winner there. You could have two teams sharing it, or you could have a three-way tie. Depending on what happens on Friday, so that'll be interesting. And then obviously in the small, you got Bellingham Medway on Friday. If Bellingham wins, lock up a 5-0 regular season and a league title. That Bellingham team is pretty good.
Yes, they are. They're very good this year, and they had some good talent last year. And this year was supposed to be the year that they really came out and they were a powerhouse.
They've outscored their opponents 149-34 in 4 games. That's pretty ridiculous.
That is impressive. Well, it's been great matchups. It's been a great season, and it all comes down to this week. So there's a lot of scenarios with different teams that could win the division. So it should be a whole lot of fun. But thanks for bringing that up. That was great stuff, Jared. But we have to wrap it up. We have some highlights we need to get to. So Jared, Andy, Bob, thanks so much for joining us on the show. And without further ado, here's the latest happenings in Hopkinton Hillers sports, our latest highlights package. Guys, thanks so much, and we'll talk to you next Wednesday.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Hopkinton Hillers JV football took on Brockton this past Monday. It was a scoreless game until this happened in the second quarter.
Stevens out of the gun. Mulvaney to his left. 2 receivers either side. Takes the snap, looks to his left. In trouble, gets rid of it. Up the left side, has a wide open target, and it's caught. Seamus Murphy going to take it to the house. Touchdown, Hillers.
Wyatt Stevens connects with Seamus Murphy for a 56-yard touchdown to make it a 6-0 game. The 2-point conversion failed, and it remained a 6-0 Hiller lead heading into the halftime break. In the third quarter, Brockton strung together a drive.
Turco out of the gun. He's going to take it himself up the middle, find some room. Slips a couple tackles, now breaking free up the right side, and he has a big gain, but did take a massive hit from Sokol. Justin Sokol got in there and just clocked him. Andrew Bunnan on the initial wrap. But in any case, 4th and goal from the 1. Here we go. Can the Hillers defense make a big stop? It's going to be a keeper. Turco into the end zone, and this game is tied at 6 apiece.
A 1-yard touchdown by Matt Turco caps off the 92-yard drive and ties the game at 6 apiece. The conversion attempt was no good. The Hillers responded very soon after.
And it'll be a end-over-end kickoff. Back to the 20-yard line it goes. On the return, it's Carazza. Here he goes to the near side, the 35, the 40, the 45 across midfield into Brockton territory, the 30, the 20, the 10, and see you later, touchdown Hillers! An 80-yard kickoff return by Joseph Carazza puts the Hillers right back on top.
An 80-yard kickoff return by Joseph Carazza makes it a 12-6 game. On the two-point conversion attempt, Wyatt Stevens connects with Sergio Melli and makes it a 14-6 game. Brockton responded on their next drive.
Certainly a hurry-up style offense here. Zerko going to line it up out of the gun, back to his left, two receivers spread out to either side. He will hand it off, and finding some room is going to be Powell Jr. There he goes, up the near side into Hillers territory. The 30, the 20, the 10, and he is going to be brought out of bounds on around the 2. That's rooting on the defense. Out of the gun, double back formation, hands it off to the left back, and right into the end zone goes Mauricio Powell Jr.
A 4-yard touchdown run by Mauricio Powell Jr. makes it a 14-12 game. Brockton then went for 2 to tie it up, and the conversion was no good, keeping the game at 14-12. Brockton with their final opportunity to take a lead.
Looks like Max Foster is in at quarterback, and he indeed is. They'll line it up out of the gun. Powell Jr. to his left, a 4-receiver set. 3 receivers spread out to the right. Takes the snap, looks up the middle, throws up the middle, and they will not have enough.
A turnover on downs, and the Hillers hang on for the 14-12 win. Also Monday night, Hillers Swimming posted results for their meet with Holliston Medway. Here's a look.
We spent a lot of time watching you swim in this place.
Yeah, and
over the
also
years.
getting disqualified, I'm sure.
Yes, getting disqualified numerous times. But what I remember the most is that when we first dropped you off, the first time you jumped into the pool, you chipped a tooth.
Oh, yes, I do.
Yeah, you remember
I did
that?
chip my
5
tooth,
years
yeah.
old or something. Yep. So,
Sophia Luce's phone through definitely a
she
key
looks
to
good. She looks good.
the end of the
We're
Grace
obviously
is
rooting for
kicking,
Deirdre.
yeah.
She's kicking now.
she's
It's
great.
moving now. It's moving.
We have Pierce,
Nice.
right?
Pierce out there in lane 6.
Oh wait, am I on the wrong
And
one?
then lane 1 showing a lot of speed there, Katie Balster.
The results for the teams should be released soon. Hillers Varsity Volleyball took on Norwood this past Tuesday night. Hopkinton dominated the first set. Steve Sweetapple on the call.
Oh, another block. Great block from Kate.
Hillers take the first set 25-6 and continued their dominance into the second set.
Minoyan. Great block. Powers with another.
A 25-3 second set. The Hillers would finish it off in the third set.
Oh, and that's it. Not a pretty way to end it, but the girls will take it.
25-16 in the third set, and the Hillers take the 3-set sweep over Norwood and improves to 8-1 on the season. Before the match against Norwood, the Hillers celebrated senior night. Here's a look.
Thank you all for coming to support us this evening at our last regular season home match versus Norwood Mustangs. This is a special night, senior night, when we show off our appreciation for the seniors in the volleyball program. But first, we'd like to recognize the seniors who are here tonight from the Norwood High School volleyball program. Please, step forward, wave when I call your name. Number 2, Caitlin Ford. Number 5 or 19, Kushu Shah. Kushi, sorry. Number 8, Shaylin Avery. Number 12, Chloe Mason. Number 9, Sophia Eliopoulos. Number 14, Lexi Curvin, captain. Number 16, Diana Ikachukwu. And number 16, number 20, Sydney Wadicus, captain. I did my best. Congratulations to the Norwood seniors. And now it's time to honor our Hopkinton volleyball seniors and their parents and families. When I call your name, please meet your parents and family, pose for a picture, and then take your place on the end line. Caden Boyce, Jill and Chris Boyce. All right, Rachel Lorette, Julie and Steve Lorette. Is Allison? And Allison Lorette, woo! Surprise. Mirabella Palucci, Selena and Matt Palucci. All right. Hannah Quinlan, Carol and John Quinlan. Millie Sensini, Mary and Scott Sensini. All right. And Cassie White, Carrie, and John White. Let's go, Cass. All right. As always, parents and family, we appreciate all that you've done for the girls in the program this year and past years. Thank you for being dedicated fans, supporting your daughters and all the members of the team, especially during this Fall 2 special season. All the snacks were a bonus too. Thank you.
And there it is, the senior night festivities for Hopkinton Hillers girls volleyball. We're out of time. HCAM Sports Talk is back next Wednesday at 3 p.m. Thanks for tuning in. Take care and be well, everybody.